Hello and welcome to Caribbean Vibrations, TV's #1 Caribbean show. I'm your host and guide, Alan, and this week we're coming to you from the luxurious Ritz-Carlton in downtown Toronto as we attend the University of West Indies Toronto Alumni Gala. Here's what we have coming up on today's show. We've had the opportunity to interview some great UWI Alumni Award winners, including Cameron Bailey, Harry Rosen, Sir Hilary Beckles, Wes Hall, Dr. Shirley Thompson, and Stephen Ames. But first up, Superstar Shaggy shares with us his philanthropic contributions to the Caribbean community right now on Caribbean Vibrations. Caribbean Vibrations, and we're here at the UWI Alumni Gala with Mr. Shaggy. How are you doing today?
Not bad at all. It's good to be here,
Tonight at the Alumni Awards, you're getting the Luminary Award. What does that mean to you?
My grandmother always tell me never you sit down and worry about the rewards, about the awards. You must focus on the rewards, And so normally when people call me to get awards, especially in things that I've done or accomplished already, it's not something that really moves me. But with this situation, it's a little bit different because obviously it's the UWI. It's a UWI organization, and they basically create scholarship for kids who cannot afford it. And just the fact that it's an organization that gives back was what really lured me to be here.
Speaking of organizations, we have a mutual friend, my friend Carleen Samuels. We were supposed to come with Shaggy and Friends this year, but we didn't get a chance. So tell me, you're a very humble guy, but tell me about Shaggy and Friends, please. Let people know.
Well, Shaggy and Friends is a part of the Shaggy Make a Difference Foundation, which is formed by myself and my wife, Rebecca Parker-Burrell. And, we throw concerts every year, biannually. We're coming up to our 5th staging, which will be January, the first Saturday in January, on the lawns of Jamaica House, the Prime Minister's office. And, we've raised somewhere in the neighborhood of over $2 million so far. We're in the process of building a brand new cardiac ward. We should be finished sometime this year. And, this hospital is the only hospital in English-speaking Caribbean, so my plan is to pretty much try and make it a gem. It makes you realize just how popular you are with this new generation. For somebody who's been in this for over 20 odd years like I have, to still have a relevance amongst these kids these days, especially since there's so many platforms of media these days and so much more things for them to be into, to still think that we have some relevance is great. To get that amount of crowd there in and have them sing every song, sing these songs word for word is a little gratifying, I tend to follow my ear. I think my career has gotten to a point where I've been successful by just following my ear. And I think that's the only way I'm going to continue. I'll probably continue doing it.
Caribbean Vibrations TV, and we are here at the University of West Indies Alumni 7th Annual Toronto Benefit Gala. That's a mouthful.
Yes, it is.
That's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
And we're here with Sir Hilary Beckles. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. It's great to be here. Okay. And this I'm told this is the 2nd largest Caribbean city in the world.
I believe it. There's a lot of, the Bajans are here. We got Antiguans behind the camera. A whole bunch of other people.
Everyone is here.
Okay. Feeling that Caribbean vibrations. I like to say that. Now, you've done a lot of things. In a short period of time. You're one of the youngest professors, actually the youngest professor at the University of West Indies when you got your tenure. Also, you're a sir. Now, but your history actually starts a little bit back. Why did you choose to focus on Afro-Caribbean history as your major?
When I went off to college in the UK, my major was philosophy. And after first semester or two, I realized that there were so many things happening in the black world, in Africa, the Caribbean, Brazil, and I felt excluded from that information. And I shifted my major from philosophy to history in order to incorporate a comprehensive understanding of the African journey. And thus began what has been an academic discipline that has encapsulated the entire global black world.
What is something that people don't know about Afro-Caribbean history? One or two things.
Well, I think one of the important things I think that has not been fully understood has been the making of the contributions of African people to the making of the Americas. The view has always been that 15 million Africans were brought to the Caribbean, Brazil, North America, and it was really a migration of labor. But it was much more than that. Africans brought to the Caribbean, to the Americas, they brought their technology, they brought their science, they brought their philosophies, their art, their religion, their pharmacology. They brought an entire economic and social civilization to this part of the world that has continued to shape it, so that when we speak, for example, today about democracy and so on, we were the ones who actually developed that philosophy, because we were saying there has to be liberty, there has to be freedom, we will fight for it, we will not accept enslavement, we want justice. All the things that we now take for granted as part of democracy, we were the ones who actually went out and demanded those things every single day for 400 years.
That's deep. That's very, very deep. Now, we're here for the University of West Indies Toronto Alumni Gala. There are so many people who graduated from UWI doing great things. What do you think that connection is? From you, that's small islands, they come out and they do great things around the world.
Tremendous intellectual capacity in the Caribbean. What we have always lacked are the economic resources. And bear in mind that these nations are young, in most instances 40, 50 years. And we have crafted out of that horrible colonial history. We have built nations out of them, and the nations are young. But guess what? They are stable, they are viable, they are multi-ethnic, multicultural. There's a strong civilization, and the young people in the region, I think, have intellectual dynamism, and every chance they have to participate, whether it's a sport, it's art, it's music, it's medicine, it's history, it's theater, whatever we have an opportunity, we do well. So education for us is about giving the opportunity to all Caribbean citizens to explore their imaginations. Thank
you so much, Sir Hilary.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you're watching Caribbean Vibrations TV.
Thank you.
Don't forget to follow us on social media at Caribbean TV. You're watching Caribbean Vibrations, and we're here at the Toronto Benefit Gala for UWI. And we're here with Mr. Cameron Bailey. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Very good. How are you?
Well, thank you for asking. I'm actually pretty good. Now, we share a similar history. Born in the UK, Bajan. Now, do you go to Barbados a lot?
As often as I can. I'm a father now with my wife of a 6-year-old, so he's been twice, which is great, and we're hoping to go again this past winter. But as often as we can, we go down and spend some time in Barbados.
Now, we've seen your evolution from just being a reviewer to now one of the co-directors of TIFF. So one of the questions I have to ask you is, a long time ago, there used to be a program like Planet Africa. Do you think things like that are still necessary in this time?
Planet Africa ran for 10 years at the Toronto Film Festival in the 90s all the way up through 2005. And when it started, there wasn't as much awareness of cinema of the African diaspora, and there really wasn't an audience that was focused on it in a wide way in the city. And we were able to do that in part through Planet Africa and then all of the other film festivals that came up around in the city as well. Now I think that audience is there, and that's why that program folded. I think there's still a need for attention to be paid to African cinema. I mean, there's a lot going on in this city. There are people who are working in sort of very commercial arenas, like Director X, of course, he came out of Toronto. Clement Virgo, of course, doing Book of Negroes. Charles Officer is somebody that not everyone would know. Very smart, independent filmmakers, made both documentaries and fiction films. I have just been talking to a guy named Mishaka Licorice, who has worked with Manifesto and is now getting into producing films as well. So there are always people bubbling up, and I think we're going to see that next generation coming along any minute. I think literally the city of Toronto is behind the success of TIFF. The city of Toronto has transformed itself over the last 40 years. TIFF is celebrating its 40th birthday this year, and the energy and the diversity and the cultural richness that you see in the city now, partly as a result of all these immigrants who came in, that's reflected in what we do at TIFF every year.
You're watching Caribbean Vibrations. We're here with the one and only Mr. Harry Rosen at the UWI Alumni Gala. What brings you today to the gala, Mr. Rosen?
Well, for one thing, Raymond Chan, who passed away this past year, a favorite, was a great supporter of this event. But in addition to that, I've learned of all the initiatives that take place here for the university and met the great people and its staff. And I'm very encouraged about the great things that are being done in the Caribbean.
My last question, a personal question. What is one essential suit every man should have?
Well, if not formal wear like I'm attired in tonight, I would say it would be a navy blue or black suit, like what you're wearing, for an example.
Thank you very much. You're watching Caribbean Vibrations. You're watching Caribbean Vibrations TV, and we're here at the 7th Annual University of West Indies Toronto Alumni Gala with one of the winners tonight. How you doing, Wes?
I'm just fine, thank you.
Okay. Now, for those who don't know, you have a company called Kingsdale Shareholders. What is a proxy specialist?
Well, a proxy specialist is, I prefer to use the term advisor.
Okay.
So if you're a publicly traded company and I own an investment in your company and I don't like the way that it's managed, I can either sell my stock or I can get the rest of the shareholders together and get rid of you as management and put my own people in place. So my job is to help people do that. Or in some cases to help companies defend them against people doing that. So that's called shareholder activism, right? So nowadays it's really an asset class. People have billions of dollars to spend and they look at underperforming companies and try to take advantage of that by going in and cleaning management out, putting their own team in place, and then lift the performance of the company up. So my job is to really help these guys look at the company, look at strategy to get a win, and hopefully create value for shareholders.
Why did you start your company?
I've always wanted to do something on my own. I didn't know what it was, and then I got an opportunity in this industry. I worked there for a number of years, and I decided, listen, I can professionalize it. It was very fragmented. The way that they did things weren't very professional, professionalized in Canada, and I thought that I could do better. So in 2003, I decided to start my own firm. I went to my colleagues at the time, and nobody would come with me because they thought that I would go out of business in the first 6 months. And here we are 13 years later, and we're the number one brand in Canada with 90% of market share in this market.
That's a powerful thing. You know what I mean? You started, you walked out the door, and we've seen that actually in some movies where, one or two people will go with them, and then they reap the rewards later on. Now, we spoke a bit about your upbringing off camera. You're actually from Jamaica, from a large family. How did that impact you going in on this dream?
I was raised by my grandmother, Julia Vassal, an amazing woman. And I have 13 brothers and sisters. I have a brother who was murdered here in Canada, actually in Buffalo, because he was into not so good things. And but my grandmother taught me from I was a young boy to work hard and never take life for granted. So I really emulate her in everything I do. So when I get up in the morning at very early times, like 5 o'clock in the morning, like she used to, I try to do my exercise to keep healthy, and then I hit the books. When I was younger, to study. Now I go to work, and I work long hours, but I also have a family. I have 5 children, so I tend to try to balance my life out a little bit. It's not all about work, but there's some play in there because you do have to do that for the kids.
Now, you're in the world of finance and stocks and all these things, but one of the things, unfortunately, in our community is that we don't talk about that enough, about investment and all these things. How do you think we can change that?
Well, it's interesting because if you go to Bay Street, you're going to see that there's a lot of people of color on Bay Street. There's a lot of Jamaicans on Bay Street. Unfortunately, we don't see them. Unfortunately, we're overshadowed by all the bad news that we see by people who are here doing no good. But there are a lot of people doing really great work on Bay Street. In terms of investment, as a culture, we don't really think about that. The typical investment that we do, we call it partnering. I don't know if you remember that. Partner draw, yeah. Right? You put some money in. It's almost like a pyramid scheme. You put some money in. Sometimes somebody, in the end, they didn't put their money in, and then you're out. That's the kind of way that we save in the Caribbean. Or we put the money in the bank account, earning 0 interest. In fact, we're actually paying the bank to put the money in the bank. We don't really look at the stock markets. We tend to think that it's for sophisticated people, but it's really not. It's for the average Joe. All you have to do is just look at the financial statement. Does this company make money? Did they lose money? If they lose money, I won't invest in it. If they make money, maybe I'll buy their stock. And if I don't really like what I see or what I'm hearing, I sell it and I move on and buy something else that's better. And I also buy something, maybe a yield in something, maybe a dividend every quarter. So at least every quarter I get some money in my bank account. And so if we start to think along those lines, we can create a nice little nest egg for ourselves. When we retire, at least we have something in the bank to make sure it carries us through retirement.
I like that. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our Caribbean Vibration viewers?
Well, I think that the message that I have for, in particular, parents who leave their kids in the Caribbean and come to Canada, just don't be deterred by the headlines that you see about the bad things that some of us do. Focus on the good things that some of us do. And sometimes we neglect to bring those kids over because we just don't want them to be a part of that statistic. And people are different. You can give the same opportunity to two different people, and they treat it very differently. And so if you can bring those kids over to see what it's like here, they may make you extremely proud. So don't neglect to do that.
Appreciate that advice.
Thank you.
And you're watching Caribbean Vibrations TV. You're watching Caribbean Vibrations, and we are here at the 7th Annual University of Toronto Alumni Gala with Dr. Shirley Thompson. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Great to be here. My first time in Toronto.
Came across the pond.
Oh, love it. Yes, across the pond. Via Jamaica.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. And like quick little stop in.
Yes, I spent the weekend with my parents for Easter.
Now, we were talking a little bit off camera about all the different things you've done as I'm learning more and more these amazing things you've done. Tell us about New Nation Rising.
Well, I was commissioned to write a big piece for the Queen of England's 50th anniversary, so the Golden Jubilee. I was asked to write a piece for London, and I decided to write a symphony which tells the story of London through music and the history of London from 1066 to the present day.
Where did you get that inspiration to actually do the piece? Because I know it was for a certain event, but I can't even fathom how much work goes into that. So where'd you get that inspiration?
Well, I started off with a blank page, as you say. And because I have an interest in history, a very strong interest, I took modern history at European History at university. So I was inspired to look into ideas around historical ideas, and I tend to draw my inspiration from history, and so I decided to create a story around the London because it was about the Queen and her legacy and the legacy of London and its heritage.
And you've composed a lot of different works. What's next? What's the next big thing for you?
Well, I'm writing a series of operas about Caribbean heroines. I've written an opera about Queen Anne of the Maroons that was premiered at the contemporary festival called Tête last year in Europe, and it opened the whole festival. I've written a piece called The Woman Who Refused to Dance. It's about a woman, an enslaved woman on a slave ship who refused to dance and was whipped, and then she died a few days later, and this was the catalyst for the act of the abolition of the trade in enslaved African people. It was based on this it was based on this incident when William Wilberforce argued at Parliament using this as a test case. And I'm also, one of the female icons I'm looking at is Dido Elizabeth Bell, who was perceived to be the first black aristocrat in England in the 18th century.
Some very heavy, powerful stuff.
That's what I'm interested in, telling stories.
Now, if people want to get in contact with you or find out more information about you, is there a website or anywhere they can get?
Yes, my website is www.shirleythompsonmusic.com.
Perfect. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And you're watching Caribbean Vibrations TV. Thank you. Caribbean Vibrations TV is an award-winning entertainment and lifestyle series dedicated to the culture of the international Caribbean community. Every week we take our viewers on a journey that captures the energy and influence of the Caribbean diaspora on a global scale. Our exclusive and unique content brings viewers the best in Caribbean travel, festivals, music, business, food, fashion, and cultural treasures globally. Caribbean Vibrations TV, all things Caribbean. You're watching Caribbean Vibrations TV, and we're here with Mr. Stephen Ames. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, so we know that born in Trinidad, came to Canada, professional golfer. Where did you get that love for golf?
That was easy. The introduction actually came from my father, asking me to come and caddy for him at a golf event. I believe I was 12 years old. And just the fact of pulling the bag, watching him play, watching the ball fly through the air, it intrigued me. It was like, wow, this looks like fun. And at age 13, I picked the game up and went from there, not knowing that my grandmother was actually a two-time champion, Trinidad ladies champion, and I got to play a lot of golf with her as well growing up. So I guess it kind of ran in the family.
Yes, it did. And Iran, when you were 16, you did something very unique. What'd you do?
Yeah, I believe that was in your home country.
It was. When I read it.
Right? Yeah. I broke
What did that feel like?
To be honest with you, that was like my big introduction to what we call professional stardom, breaking the course record held by an ex-professional player, Peter Townsend, and it was at the old Sandy Lane golf course, which I've gone back and played a few times, and still brought up great memories for me going back there. But I guess it was a stepping stone, realizing that at that age that I was capable of playing the game, but not knowing, coming from a Caribbean island, that you could actually make a profession out of it. So I was still very naive to that respect. And you know what, I continue playing the game only because of the fact that I loved it so much.
And that's important because, I mean, people can do things they're good at, but if you don't love it, you don't have that passion.
Correct.
It's very hard. Now, you do a lot of things, from owning, you've had a steakhouse, you've won 4 times on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
What's next for you?
You know what, right now I'm on the Champions Tour, which everybody's kind of characterized as the back nine of my career, which is, no complaints about that. It's a great passion that I have, and it's an opportunity for me to play golf till I'm 65, which is great. And you know, the funny thing is that everybody works all their life to retire to play golf. I'm playing golf till I'm retired, which is great. So I'm quite happy with the fact that I have a career and a profession that I've picked that I get to play till I'm 70. Continue playing it as long as I want. So I'm playing the Champions Tour right now, and I'm absolutely loving it. I live in Vancouver, so you know, I'm always asked for the fact of actually living in the Caribbean and enjoying it. But every time I do have the opportunity of going home, it's always fun. And I always enjoyed the fact that I am, as you would say, Trini to the bone.
Thanks so much for your time, Stephen.
Thank you.
And you're watching Caribbean Vibrations TV. Thanks again.
Yeah.
Cheers. All right. Thanks for watching Caribbean Vibrations TV. Don't forget to check us out on social media at CaribVibe TV or visit CaribbeanVibrationsTV.com for past episodes. I'm your host and guide, Alan, and we'll see you next week on Caribbean Vibrations.